Picture this: two shoppers, two carts, but worlds apart in their approach to spending. On one side, we have mindful spending, where each item in the cart is a carefully considered choice, aligned with long-term goals and values. It's the art of asking, do I really need this? And finding joy in purchases that add value to your life. The payoff? Less stress, more financial freedom, and a life filled with meaningful acquisitions. On the flip side, there's impulse buying, where the cart fills up on a whim, driven by emotional triggers like stress or the thrill of a sale. It's the realm of buy now, think later, often leading to buyer's remorse and a cluttered life. The cost? Financial strain and a cycle of emotional highs and lows. So what's the takeaway? Mindful spending is your roadmap to financial well-being, while impulse buying is often a detour to financial stress. Choose your path wisely. So I think that Sonya is going to try to join, but I don't see her. So we will continue our discussion. I think that this one's really interesting, right? This is like the angel on one shoulder and and the other side on the other. Hey, Sonya Lutter, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to do a really quick intro for you and welcome you into our final segment 5. But I'm glad that you could join. We have Sonya Lutter, and let's see if I can get this right. Sonya Lutter, CFP, PhD, LMFT. She's Director of Financial Health and Wellness at Texas Tech University School of Financial Planning. She's recognized for her work in financial psychology, therapy, and student financial literacy. Additionally, she co-founded the Financial Therapy Association and runs her own consultancy firm, Enlight, that's E-N-L-I-T-E. Since I had to look it up, Sonya, tell everyone what LMFT means.
Yes. Well, despite all of the letters, I still can't get my time zones right. So maybe it's not so helpful, huh? The LMFT is Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist. And it's the difference between marriage and family therapy and maybe some of the other mental health professions is that it takes a very systemic approach to family issues, relationship issues, which is perfect for financial planning, which is all about the relationships across the generations. So I love that it's bringing in some of that systemic framework for financial advisors to get some knowledge from.
And can you tell us the difference between the psychology of financial planning and financial therapy?
Yes, I will give you my opinion of what the differences are. And it goes down to the meaning of the words themselves. So when you look at psychology, the ology, study of psych, the mind, particularly as it relates to people's emotions and behaviors of the financial planning process, it's not client psychology. It's really that interaction between the financial advisor and the client. And it's about understanding how the brain, the mind, is making decisions as it relates to that financial planning process. And we, as the financial advisor, are certainly a very active participant in how clients are interpreting information. They're watching for us to judge them or give affirmation of what they're doing versus financial therapy. Thera, as the root, means to treat. And that's a little bit more about diagnosing and really getting involved in a treatment plan to fix something perhaps with clients. So that's what I see as the difference. We're not necessarily needing to fix anything with clients under the psychology of financial planning. We're just getting a better understanding of why they're making the decisions that they're making.
Thank you. Just for context, we just watched a video that showed mindful spending versus impulse spending or impulse purchases. Judith, I want to ask you, can you discuss the neuroscience behind impulse buying?
Yeah, I can a little bit. I want to make a comment first, just watching that video in that grocery store with those carts. I did a segment on this, I think it was for the Today Show. And it was, they took me into a grocery store like that to interview people about what was in their grocery carts. And so I would ask people, what's this? Why are you buying this? And then I'd ask them a question, is this really necessary, something like that. Oh yes, this is really necessary. And I'm looking in the cart and there's tons of ice cream and soda and, like Oreos. I'm like, this is like really necessary. So is it really necessary? Well, of course not. But in that moment, it's impulse buying and there's just this trigger. And again, what happens, it's more about that same kind of trigger where we're drawn to that something that we think is going to make us feel better. We're in the moment, but we're not in touch with ourselves. And it's this urge that we have to really like do something that's going to make us feel better. There's this thing called time inconsistency or dynamic inconsistency. So if you ask someone to make a grocery list, for example, for next week, chances are they'll put some healthy things on it, organic meats and some grains and vegetables or whatever. But if you go to the store right this moment, chances are you're buying pizza and Cheetos. Like we want something for our future self that's actually good for us. But in the moment, we're just trying to manage our mood. Oftentimes we're not aware of that. We just want to do something to try to feel better, thinking that impulse buy is going to do it. And that's what activates that dopamine center rather than that satisfaction center that we really need to be activating to really have that sense of, oh, this is what I really need.
The mindful spending versus compulsive spending or impulse buys, very contrasting, like opposite sides of the spectrum. George, what do you do in life planning when you have like one spouse has a very different, life goal from their spouse?
One of the beauties of life planning is getting to work with couples, and if you don't have differences, I don't know, you don't belong together really. I mean, we're all different. We're different human beings. So what we do is we deliver each client into their dream of freedom. So that's kind of, and it's a big picture. So the little picture is, do we do the kitchen or do we do the bathroom or something like that? Or do we go to the Caribbean or do we go, to a local beach for a vacation? Those are things that can be negotiated pretty simply. The big picture, you want each client to live their dream of freedom. So you give them that power. And then you bring them together. And that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes what happens, it's just amazing. A client will look at their spouse and they go, I didn't realize you still like that, or I didn't realize you liked that in the first place. And so you see the clients fall in love with each other again, because you're looking at what they really want and you're not allowing the person who has kind of control around the goals to dominate the meeting.
And Sonya, how does financial therapy address both mindful and impulse spending? And as was just discussed, often opposites do attract.
Yeah, they do. And it creates more conflict when you do have the opposites. So not good in the long term, but it is very attractive to go with the spender if you're the saver. I loved what both Judith and George said. And just to add on a little bit, I think financial therapy is a lot like the life planning and really thinking through those values and aligning those with the couple as a unit. And what I would do in a situation like that is really have a visual aid to help us align with what's in our mind and getting it out on paper. And the way I do it is I draw a bullseye, and we put in the center of that bullseye the core value that represents us as an individual and us as a couple. Hopefully they are fairly similar. If they're not, then that's a conversation to get to a point where we can agree on the one core value to put in the center. And then we put a second core value in the second ring, and then ideally just 3 rings going out to that third core value. And then we take actual sticky notes and put down some of our financial goals that we've been talking about. Retirement's a very common one, maybe saving for the kids' college, maybe a vacation or a new car, lots of different things. And we start putting those sticky notes around those rings. And it's really enlightening for people to see their goals and their values there on the screen, because oftentimes we have these financial goals that either somebody said that we should have, or maybe we think that we should have for some reason, but they don't align with our core values. So once we put those values out there for all of us to see, it makes it easier to identify where we should be focusing our efforts first.
Well, thank you. I want to thank our panelists for joining us this evening, and some of the takeaways that I garnered were, to recognize your emotional triggers, to replace shopping with healthier coping mechanisms, and to find joy in saving to gain control over your finances by understanding your emotions. We talked about the behavioral or psychological biases, understanding the game that the marketers are trying to play with us, and not always easily falling victim to those powerful marketing messages, to really understand ourselves and to take the time to really be mindful about what are things that we need. Maybe we can slow down to make more conscious choices, and then to surround yourself with good people, have advisors, have good friends, set a life plan, and doing all of those things, having an overarching longer term goal, hopefully can help you to keep your eye on the prize, so to speak, and look at the things that are really important to you. So I want to thank all our viewers and listeners for joining us for this very thought-provoking discussion. Please visit our panelists, Dr. Judith Wright. You can find her at judithwright.com. That's WRIGHT.com. George Kinder, you can find him all over the place, from Maui to from Hana, Maui to London to Massachusetts. But online, you can find him at georgekinder.com or kinderinstitute.com. And we're so glad that Dr. Sonia Lutter could join us at the very end here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on financial therapy. You can find Sonya at enlight.world. That's ENLIT.world. Make sure to mark your calendars for next week. We have episode 12, The Rise of the Gig Economy, Thriving in the Freelance Revolution. That is on November 1st, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thank you for joining us, and please do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.